No one hunts snipers at night, Sergeant. It's suicide. That's what the general told her 3 months ago. The enemy had thermal optics, total darkness, perfect kill zones carved into the mountains for weeks. 9 professional shooters. 1 SEAL team pinned down and bleeding out in the valley below. Air support, 40 minutes away. Ground reinforcements, an hour. Time left, maybe 10 minutes before every man died. Then a calm voice cut through the chaos. Echo team, this is Overwatch. I can hunt them. 1 woman, 9 targets, 4 hours of darkness. What happened next would prove the general spectacularly wrong. But before we reveal how she eliminated them one by one using tactics that seem impossible, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button. Wind scraped across the barren ridge, carrying dust and silence in equal measure. Then, at 21:13, a single suppressed shot cracked the night open. Petty Officer Lane dropped instantly, his helmet split by a round no one saw coming. The rest of Trident Team Echo dove behind rocks, but there was no real cover here, not against eyes that could see through the dark. Sniper! Multiple angles! Lieutenant Hale shouted, voice shaking as another round snapped past his cheek. He pressed into the dirt. Clay, shards, dust. The night felt alive and hunting. They tried to move. They couldn't. Whoever was up on the ridge wasn't guessing. They were choosing. Another crack. Another scream. A second operator went down, legs shattered. A third fell 10 seconds later. Everything collapsed into radio static, heavy breathing, and a rising panic that tasted like metal. Command, this is Echo. We're pinned. Snipers with thermal. We need air on station now. Static held for a moment too long. Air support, 40 minutes. Ground reinforcements, an hour. Echo team. Already bleeding out. Hale looked around. 7 men still breathing. All shaking. All trying to make themselves invisible while knowing they weren't. Every heat signature on that valley floor glowed like a target. Another shot. Stone chips cut Hale's cheek. We're not lasting 10 minutes, he whispered. Then, a calm female voice drifted through the static. No hurry. No fear. Just clarity. Echo team. This is Overwatch. Hold your fire. Keep your strobes off. I'm 200 meters northwest. I can hunt them. Everyone froze. Who? Where? Why now? Hale hissed into his mic. Overwatch, identify yourself. We need air, not, you need survival. The voice cut in. 9 shooters. Coordinated. They built this kill zone for weeks. I've been tracking them for 40 minutes. Stay down. Do not return fire. I'm moving. The line went dead. A single moment of silence fell over the valley. Not peace. Not safety. Just the tension of a new player entering the game. Hale exchanged a look with Sergeant Bishop. This is insane, Bishop muttered. So is dying here, Hale answered. Far above them, a shadow shifted among the rocks. Her name wasn't known to them yet. Not her record. Not her specialty. Not the reason she was in these mountains long before Trident Team arrived. But somewhere on that ridge, Staff Sergeant Maya Hart slid across cold stone like she'd been shaped by it. Average height. Lean. Movements surgical and silent. And eyes behind her experimental night lenses, trained to see the world in layers most soldiers never imagined. She didn't hesitate. She didn't announce. She worked. Her breath slowed. Her pulse steadied. The dark bent to her. One shot. Quiet. Clipped. Swallowed by the wind. The first hostile sniper slumped over his rifle, body barely shifting. He never knew she was there. Maya moved instantly, 10 meters left, then down, hugging the ridge. The rule was absolute. Never fire twice from the same position. These men were professionals too, and they'd already sensed something was wrong. Below, Echo Team listened as the night changed shape. It felt subtle at first, less incoming fire, more silence, a faint shift in the rhythm of danger. Then another soft crack echoed overhead. Echo Team didn't see the impact, but Maya did through the clean glow of a collapsing heat signature. 2 down, 7 to go. The third and fourth shooters were working a tandem pattern. cycling their sightlines across the valley. Maya marked them by their timing, not by movement. They were disciplined, predictable, in a way only experts become after years of mastering the hunt. She slid behind a slab of limestone, exhaled, and fired twice in 3 seconds. First, the spotter, then the shooter. Both signatures faded into the rocks, 4 gone. And now the valley grew eerily quiet. Echo Team held their breath. No one dared speak. Hale whispered, "Overwatch. Status?" The reply came like someone discussing weather, not death. 4 eliminated. 5 remain. Stay low. Don't track muzzle flashes. Don't move unless I tell you. A pause. And Lieutenant, stop breathing so loud. Bishop stifled a laugh short. Terrified, but real. For the first time in 20 minutes, panic loosened its grip. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't guessing. She wasn't hoping. She was hunting, and as Maya crouched behind a cold ridge, preparing for the hardest target yet a shooter hidden deep inside a rock cavity, she whispered to herself, the same words Shed said on every night hunt. The dark belongs to whoever understands it. She exhaled, lined up the impossible angle, and squeezed the trigger. The valley felt the shift. Not loud, not violent, just the quiet click of fear changing sides. The shot that dropped the hidden marksman echoed only inside Maya Hart's breathing. The valley never heard it. Echo Team didn't even realize the most dangerous shooter on the ridge had just gone silent. But Maya did. She always did. She shifted, letting gravel roll under her forearm as she flattened against the stone. The night pressed against her like a second skin. No lights, no outlines, just the subtle hum of a world where movement meant death. She stayed absolutely still, watching how the silence reshaped itself after a kill. Below, Lieutenant Hale leaned closer to his radio. "Overwatch? Confirm target?" A sharp whisper returned. "Confirmed. Do not change position." Only 4 words, but they steadied the entire team. Not because they trusted her, but because the alternative was dying in the next 30 seconds. Maya angled herself along the ridge, slipping through shadows carved by thousands of years of wind. She knew this terrain better than the men hunting Echo Team. She'd been tracking them long before tonight, long enough to understand their rhythm, their confidence, their blind spots, long enough to know that confidence becomes a crack if you press at the right moment. Her mind tracked the pattern. 5 shooters left, 5 sets of habits, 5 predictable fragments of human behavior. She didn't need their names. She only needed the way they breathed. The next sniper held a vantage point overlooking an entire quadrant of the valley. A perfect perch. If the world stayed predictable, Maya crouched behind a jagged ridge, knees tight, eyes fixed on the faint shimmer of movement. He was scanning, careful, methodical, convinced the threat lived below him. She waited until he paused, until his posture tightened, until he leaned forward just a little too long. A hiss of breath, a gentle squeeze, a thud that didn't echo. Another signature gone. For a moment, a faint tremor passed through the ridge. Not from her, from the remaining shooters, realizing their numbers were shrinking. Maya moved again, sliding downhill into a shallow cut in the terrain. Dust puffed around her boots, soft as breath. She froze instantly. Movement at the wrong time ruins everything. She counted to 3, then advanced another meter. She could feel the tension building across the valley, like the night had started holding its breath along with her. "Echo Team," she whispered. 4 remaining. The words dropped into their radios like stones falling into water. Calm, steady, completely at odds with everything happening around them. Hale swallowed hard. "How are you doing this alone?" A slight pause. "Because I've done it before." No brag, no explanation, just a fact that made Hale feel both relieved and unnerved. 1 ridge over, 2 shooters worked in tandem. Their fields of vision overlapped, creating a choke point no one could cross alive. Maya studied their positions, noting every shift of their scopes, each motion in the dust around them. They were good, better than the others, which made them predictable in a different way, too rigid, too rehearsed. She crawled until her view lined up between 2 stone pillars formed by erosion. 1 shooter exhaled, steadying his posture. The other leaned slightly, waiting for confirmation from his partner. Timing, coordination, routine. She broke it. 2 soft cracks, barely more than taps. 2 bodies slumped over granite. Silence followed. A heavier silence this time, like the night had swallowed something whole. "Echo team," she murmured. 2 left, and that was when the darkness shifted. Not violently, not loudly, just a subtle ripple of tension. The last 2 shooters vanished from her view. No movement, no glimmer, no hint of breath or body heat. They had gone completely still, shutting down every tell they normally relied on. Maya recognized the behavior instantly. These 2 operators weren't just trained. They were experienced enough to know when the hunt wasn't theirs anymore. She pressed into the rock, eyes narrowing. They were hiding, yes, but not randomly. They had fallback positions, backup angles, escape slots carved into the hillside long before tonight. She recalled studying this valley for days, mapping the patterns, the habits, the anchor points where a shooter might retreat if pressured. That memory now became the most valuable weapon she carried. "Echo team," she said softly. "They're adapting." Lieutenant Hale stiffened. "Meaning?" "They know someone's hunting them. They're shifting to survival mode." A long beat passed. No one spoke. Maya adjusted her stance, lowering her profile as she prepared for the next move. Her voice dropped to a whisper only the night could hold. "This is where it gets difficult." She wasn't warning them. She was reminding herself. The last 2 shooters weren't running. They were waiting, and in the stillness between one heartbeat and the next, Maya Hart stepped deeper into the dark she understood better than anyone alive. The ridge settled into a tense quiet, as if the night itself held its breath. 2 hostile shooters remained, but they were no longer scanning, no longer shifting. They had folded into the landscape like scars. Maya Hart knew this pattern. The last 2 always tried to disappear. She eased down a slope, each movement measured. Dust rose, then died in the wind. She paused, reading the valley the same way others read maps, by instinct, memory, and the faint tremors of human presence. Somewhere close, someone was thinking, planning, waiting for her to make one mistake. Below, Echo team stayed flat, barely moving. Hale whispered, "Overwatch? Still tracking?" A quiet reply came back. "They've gone dark. That's their strength. And their weakness." Maya tucked herself into the shadow of a boulder. These 2 weren't abandoning their posts. They were shifting into fallback nodes, positions carved into the mountain long before tonight. Shed seen traces days earlier. Disturbed earth, patterns in the rock, subtle markers that only trained eyes caught. Now those clues resurfaced, guiding her like faint footprints through the dark. She moved again, climbing a narrow shelf with slow, deliberate breaths. Her heartbeat synced with the silence. Her world shrank to angles, shadows, and memory. One of the remaining shooters had a habit shed tracked earlier, a subtle weight shift every few minutes. He used it to relieve cramped muscles. Tonight, Head tried to suppress it, but fatigue always wins, and fear makes even experts slip. She waited, counted, listened to the stone cooling under the breeze. Then there it was. Not a sound, but a ripple, a faint, tiny disturbance in the stillness. She leaned forward, focused on the direction the tremor came from. The shape was buried in a crevice, cold, narrow, invisible to most sensors, but Maya didn't need a full silhouette. She trusted patterns more than outlines. She steadied herself, exhaled. Let instinct take over. A soft release, a dull impact. The rock seemed to sigh. One left. Echo team heard nothing, but Hale felt the shift. A strange lightness in the air. "Overwatch," he breathed. "Status? One remaining." "Stay down," she said. Hez the cautious one. The last shooter had stayed perfectly motionless for nearly 15 minutes. Too still, too disciplined. He hadn't transmitted, hadn't shifted, hadn't betrayed a single hint. Only someone deeply experienced could maintain that level of control. Maya knew his type. The kind who didn't panic. The kind who waited for the predator to get impatient. She adjusted her position once more, crawling along a narrow ridge barely the width of her shoulder. Sharp stone pressed through her gloves. She didn't flinch. She'd been here before in other valleys, other nights, against opponents who believed the dark made them invincible. Halfway across the ledge, something stopped her. A whisper in her ear, more intuition than thought. Something felt wrong. Not with the shooter, with the night itself. She lowered her profile, eyes tracing the ground. The pattern of footprints around the last fallback point didn't match what she'd expected. There were more than 2 sets of prints, one crossing over another. Someone else had been here earlier, someone who didn't belong. Her breath tightened. Someone had scouted the valley ahead of the enemy shooters. Someone who wasn't Echo Team. Someone who had access to internal routes. She shut her eyes for a moment. A quiet realization sank in. This wasn't just a kill zone set by 9 men. This was orchestrated with intelligence that came from a place it shouldn't have. Not an accident, not luck, a leak. Her voice, when it returned to the radio, was lower. Echo, be advised. There may be additional actors in play tonight. Hale stiffened. Actors? You mean more shooters? No, Maya said. Someone who knew our patterns. Someone feeding information. A long silence followed. Echo Team didn't know what to say. Neither did she. But the last sniper remained, and he was still out there, clinging to the rocks, waiting for a moment she refused to give. She advanced again, following the memory of his earlier routes. He had 2 places he would retreat to in a worst-case scenario. One offered concealment. The other offered escape. She tilted her head, listening to the wind drag across stone. A faint irregularity caught her attention. Warm air rising where cold should settle. There, a narrow crack between 2 slabs. She steadied her body, aligned her breathing, set her focus on the smallest hint of presence. Another whisper, another pulse of instinct, and then a single, soft release. Silence, no echo, no movement, just the sound of the mountain settling into itself, as if accepting the last of its ghosts. Maya clicked her radio. Echo Team, all 9 neutralized. Hale exhaled, long and shaky. You did it. Alone. No, she said quietly. Not alone. Someone else was here tonight, and we need to find out who. The wind shifted. The valley felt colder, and the hunt, for the first time, pointed somewhere deeper than the dark. The mountain stopped echoing after Maya's final shot. No more shifting shadows. No more silent threats tucked into rock crevices. Just the cold reminder that 9 shooters had vanished into the dark, and 1 woman had walked out alive. Lieutenant Hale rose slowly from behind his cover. His legs shook as he steadied himself. The rest of Echo Team followed, wary, limping, exhausted. Their breaths formed thin clouds that dissolved into the valley air. For a long moment, no one spoke. They just listened to the wind brushing across stone, as if waiting for the night to confirm it was truly over. Maya descended from the ridge, with quiet, precise steps. Her silhouette approached like something the darkness had shaped, then reluctantly released. When she reached the valley floor, Hale finally saw her clearly lean frame, controlled movement, eyes sharp enough to cut through the night. She didn't announce her name. She didn't need to. Thank you, Hale said, voice rough. You saved all of us. Maya shook her head. You saved yourselves by staying down. I just cleared the board. But the board still held secrets. She knelt beside one of the fallen shooters, brushing dust from his gear. What she found wasn't surprising, but it was troubling. A small encrypted tag, a routing code that had no business being in enemy hands. Hale noticed her expression shift. Something wrong? Not here, she murmured. Then she rose. We need to verify the other sites. The team split into pairs, checking each ridge and hollow where Maya had made her kills. The bodies were exactly where she said they'd be. Each one positioned with military precision before the night swallowed them. Each site told the same quiet story. Someone had set this ambush long before Echo Team arrived. At the final position, Hale crouched beside a shattered scope. He ran a thumb across its surface. It was still warm. How far were you when you took this shot? Maya answered simply. Far enough not to be noticed. But Hale wasn't looking for a number. He was trying to understand how a single person could rewrite the outcome of a battle designed to be unwinnable. The medic called over from a distance. One casualty. Lane, the first man hit, hadn't survived. A silence heavier than any darkness settled over the valley. No celebration, no relief, just the weight of what almost happened. Maya lowered her head for a moment. She had seen too many first-hit losses. They always left a mark. "We should move," she said quietly. "This valley's been compromised more than you know." Echo team followed her out, step by step, leaving behind a place built to kill them. 3 weeks later, her name resurfaced in a different room, briefing boards, classified notes, whispered discussions between officers who rarely agreed on anything. They wanted her for another operation. Another sniper cell, smaller but more mobile. 6 shooters this time, scattered across a rugged canyon network west of their old kill zone. Maya accepted without comment. She didn't ask why they wanted her. She already knew. This time, she didn't go alone. Hale sent 4 operators from Echo to join her men she had saved. Men who had watched the night move under her control. They had spent those weeks training with her, learning her rhythm, her silent cues, her way of reading the dark. When they inserted just after midnight, they moved like a shadow with 5 limbs. No radio calls, no noise, no hesitation. The 6 hostile shooters never saw them, not because Maya shot first, but because she taught her team how to think before aiming. Within 90 minutes, the canyon went quiet. 5 men learned a new way to survive. 6 men on the other side never got to use theirs. Intel recovered from the canyon was more revealing than all 9 bodies from the first valley. A symbol. A code fragment. The same routing signature she saw the night of the ambush buried inside enemy communication logs. Someone was feeding information again. Someone inside their own network. Her report reached higher authorities fast. Too fast. 2 days later, she was summoned. A colonel with tired eyes told her the Pentagon wanted her to build a night operations program, Project Aurora, a blueprint for future teams, a way to flip the darkness for good. Maya agreed. But her mind stayed on the routing signature. Training hundreds of operators couldn't erase the feeling that a shadow was moving parallel to her. Someone with access, someone skilled, someone patient. On her way out of the briefing room, she pulled a small data chip from her pocket, the same one she took from the first valley. She noticed something she hadn't before. A timestamp embedded deep inside the code. A timestamp that matched a message sent from their own side of the network. Her pulse thinned. Not from fear, from clarity. This wasn't over. The night wasn't done, and the hunter she needed to find next wasn't hiding in a valley. He was hiding inside the system. Maya slipped the chip back into her pocket. The hallway lights flickered overhead. Somewhere deep in the base, a comms relay hummed softly. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She just walked toward the dark exit, letting the night swallow her again. The mountains had given her 9 ghosts. The canyon had given her 6 more. But the real hunt, the one that started everything, was just beginning. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating, with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.